armour for him and let him go by. So Scott's come in now. It'll be interesting if Darrell can find out just what's gone wrong for Scott Dixon.
Dixon didn't get on the podium until Denver in round 14.
I think he switched it off then. They're going to take the engine cover off that car. Disappointing for Dixon because he was in a reasonable position to grab some points there.
This will be his 7th DNF this year, if they do in fact take him out.
Replacing the battery box on this car.
He was pretty close to the podium here last year, Scotty Dixon, but had a mechanical problem, knocked him back to 15th. He was going to make a run for one of the major placings, and he also thought he had the car to win at Miami last round before Tony Kanaan squeezed him out of a corner. That was a contentious collision which Chris Neifel jumped on and penalised Tony for.
He was looking pretty good to pick up his second victory. I thought at that race meeting he was very strong on the unbelievably low grip Miami circuit a couple of weeks ago where they slipped and slid around. And there's Scott Dixon.
And that is a lonely position to be in.
Darrell?
Yeah, guys, I watched him when he came into the pits here, and it was interesting. He had no lights on the steering wheel, Neil, and as they pulled that box out and put the other one in, it all of a sudden all lit up again. So obviously there was a telemetry drama there somewhere.
Some sort of a power failure in the car, so he's had low battery voltage for the last couple of laps, I understand, and then all the systems gone out. And there's so many electronic systems in these cars that they can't be powered down like that, so you've got to come in and fix it all. And that's what they've done, and they'll get Scott back on his way. But it's going to be, now it really is going to be a miserable afternoon for him. And obviously the question that is posed by this situation is, did the water play a role in this? And you'd almost have to guess the answer being yes. You know, so much water around, gets into a connector here and there, and you know, critical that you can keep constant voltage flowing and around the car, and the tiniest little short, when you look at the amount of water that's out there, is enough to send elements of these cars just really haywire. So Dixon now on his way.
Well, these aren't the conditions.
It's not running cleanly. Maybe his was the car that we heard earlier. Remember I said I could hear a car that sounded ordinary?
Failure, that problem with the API injectors. Afterwards they flushed them out and it was okay.
They're the lights that Scott Dixon couldn't see.
The Dixon car sounded dreadful when it left the pit lane. I wouldn't be surprised if he's back again. And that was when Darrell was talking before about the display going down in the car. Yeah, listen to this. Sounds pretty horrid, doesn't it? It's a V something, but it ain't a V8 at the moment. Yeah, so more electrical drama with the Dixon car that's going to bring him back to the pit lane, no doubt. And once he drifts out of a point scoring position, and points incidentally is scored back to 12th, and for me, and you know, if I were making team decisions this afternoon as Dominguez makes his umpteenth trip to the pits, then I would call it quits when there was no possibility of points.
Well, this out on the circuit at the moment is the driver parade that we didn't get earlier. They went round in closed top cars, and now they're parading in open top cars. So, but it certainly isn't a race right now, and Mario Dominguez is in the pits and out of the pits for the 4th time. Mark.
There's Alex Tagliani talking to his crew. He has 6 different settings for traction control in the car, and he was, you give me 5 and 6 would be ideal. So even though these cars have got traction control, the drivers are still complaining they can't get exactly the right setting they want for this track condition. I can tell you something else. A representative from Dario Franchitti's pit has just walked back saying he is complaining to the officials. The puddle has returned to turn 1, and most drivers now are very concerned about turn 1 because they feel that they're physically splashing through it with a great opportunity to aquaplane.
Well, that is, needless to say, an extreme danger here. Even with wet tyres. And some communication problems here, or a bit of an argument, one or the other, between race control and the drivers. They want them to spread out a bit more. The drivers are not doing that. I can imagine they're in a fairly belligerent mood at the moment.
It's not going green in the foreseeable future, but they're going to pull the pace car in. They want you to space yourselves out there a little more. and the leader will set the pace to clear a bit more water. Pace car will come in, okay? And it's still all yellow track.
That's the communication to Paul Tracy. Vassar peels through this section of the circuit. What an extraordinary event this has been. There's a lot of nervousness in race control. The cars are very close together and they're uncertain about whether to start this race or at least go green. The pace car will pull away, will still be under a yellow flag. Damata had a bit of a break on the rest of them. He's the leader they were talking about on track, but beyond that, as you can see there, Vassar very close to the back of Fittipaldi's car. Well, in fact, they've closed right up again now anyway.
Remember when we spoke with Kim Green earlier on, and he said, look, we're going to take a gamble because we've found ourselves inside the window and we won't have to make another stop to the end of the race, and we think it might vault us up the standings. Well, that has actually happened a little bit because Michael Andretti has now moved up to 7th in all this. At least that garners some points for him, Mark.
Neil, just an indication of how dark it's getting down here. Look across the other side of the circuit. The street lights have come on now. The way these normally work is on a light sensor which switches them on automatically. So as far as the light sensor is concerned, it's almost dark.
Well, what can you say, Mark? It's just frightening, isn't it? It's water on the road, dark conditions, the big shunt earlier on. Greg.
Well, Neil Mickelwright, the communique that's coming through by the sounds of things is that the pace car will pull off, but the guys have got to stay in single file formation under yellow. Is that correct?
That's correct. Basically what they've said is that they're going to pull the pace car in. They're going to allow the leader of the race, which is currently Damata, to actually set the pace. They've also asked for all of the cars basically to spread out a little bit more to try and cut down on the spray.
How are both Alex and Patrick? How do they feel about the conditions right now?
I mean, quite right now, I mean, with the amount of water that is on the track, the cars are pretty good. Unfortunately, they just can't see where they're going. You know, consequently, that's why Carter are asking for them all to spread out a little bit in the hope that they can still keep moving enough to dry the track off a little bit more without actually creating any more problems for each other.
Maybe the officials are using this as real-time assessment, guys.
Dixon back in the pits there. And Scotty, of course, going away from street racing. You'd probably be glad to see the end of it up there.
One more lap.
He'll be racing in the IRL next season for this team. And so will, of course, Team Green taking, at the moment, Dario Franchitti and Tony Kanaan with them. Bit of uncertainty about the rest of the driver lineups next year.
Early in his career, Scott Dixon was helped enormously by Ken Smith, who's a bit of a motorsporting legend in New Zealand. I saw Ken in the pit earlier on today and be pretty proud to watch Scott doing so well. Mark?
Boy, there's a fight going on the radio waves down here, Neil. They're talking about, with that safety car off, slowly increasing the speed of the race, and there's drivers further back in the pack saying, you have got to be kidding. We cannot see anything. No, 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 don't increase the speed of the race.
I mean, so difficult trying to make the correct call with all of this, and this is not a good advertisement for the series or for CART at the moment. And even if we are able to go back to green, you know, we're not going to see a particularly great display one way or the other. See, it's very difficult because the configuration of the circuit is not for racing cars. And if it was a racing circuit, the camber of the road would be different. There wouldn't be all this paint all over the road.
A lot better than it was before, not so much standing water right now.
And obviously the leader of the race is in a slightly better frame of mind than those that are buried down the pack.
Chris.
And Damata says the conditions are a little better than they were earlier on.
Well, he's won.
The guys behind it, they're going to be able to see something.
That was Cristiano again. He's won 9 of the last 18 races, including the final 2 rounds of 2001. And that was this race last year amongst that imposing record. Quite amazing for this series, which has boasted so many different winners over the years. He's chasing a record for wins in a season. That's still possible here today. Al Unser Jr., Michael Andretti have had 8 wins in a season in 94 and 91 consecutively. Cristiano Damata with an opportunity here and in Fontana in Mexico to go further than that.
So the order, just in case you're curious as to who is where: Damata, Brack, Tracy. So that could potentially end up being your podium today: Damata, Brack and Tracy. And Kanaan, Franchitti, Tagliani, Andretti, Fittipaldi, Vassar and Jourdain. If Christian Fittipaldi actually ends up getting some points out of this and finishing in 8th, it's probably a pretty positive result for what could otherwise have been a shocker for him when you consider the problems early on. They had to reprogram that car. And
Once again, a reminder that the news will follow this. We're going to give you the end and the finish, the result. But if you've just recently joined us, a quick look at why we are here in this situation. This is how the race started 25 laps ago.
And Jimmy Vasser in the Shell car gets into the back of Adrian Fernandez in the Ducati car, triggers a massive incident with a heap of cars, 9 in total as I understand it. Tora Takagi in the red and white Reynard Toyota, worst off, on board with Michael Andretti as he ploughs into the back of one of the players' cars. Several cars rolling in the process. Damage was enormous. Carpentier, Tagliani, Vasser, Fernandez, Jourdain, Dominguez, Andretti, Nakano, Takagi, 2 of those drivers taken to hospital, we understand, okay, released from hospital tonight, and 16 cars faced the starter in a race that has subsequently been interrupted heavily by yellow flags. And here's another angle, and it just shows what an incredible situation we had here with people scattered from one end of the racetrack to the other on the front straight. The front straight here isn't really a straight, in all honesty. It curves gently to the right. When they're sitting in the race cars, the drivers are below the height of the concrete fences. There was an enormous amount of water in the air at the time, massive amount of spray. The track was heavy wet. These cars have aerodynamic tunnels in the floors of them together with the wings, and what happens is they drag up the water off the road and send a huge plume into the air. And you can see even at very low speed, look at the amount of water that comes up. That doesn't typically happen on the road with road cars at very low speed, so it shows you that even incredibly low speeds with a racing car, there is an aero effect, and that's why the visibility is atrocious. Have a go at that. And if you're further back than about 3rd or 4th in this pack, when they start to grow the speed, you cannot see a thing.
We've had about 6 competitive laps so far in this race. There's some confusion in the Chip Ganassi garage, we understand. They're actually questioning whether this can be a result today if they don't run a certain number of laps. They're bringing out the rule book to have a look. We'll do that too, but we'll come back after the break and give you something on that.
Back it up now. Clear in. Clear out.
We have a crazy, but in a way logical conclusion to this race coming up here, but it is something amazing. Paul Tracy is coming into the pits now. We have to cross down to Greg Rust. He has some information for us.
Well, Billy, I can show you the reason they have brought Paul Tracy in. You see these guys here. This is at the players' foresight pit. This computer shows you how many laps have left to run for the guys that need to pit. Now, as you can see here, Chris D'Amata, Brack, Canaan, Franchitti and Tagliani will all need to pit within the next 4 laps. The driver who doesn't need to do that and could, as Kim Green pointed out a couple of laps ago when we spoke to him, he's got 10 more laps before he needs to pit, is Michael Andretti. So if they were to run in the current configuration under this pace car until the end of what we consider the race, 36 laps, he is the man, Michael Andretti, that's in the box seat right now.
Keeping in mind that the official maximum lap interval between pit stops is 20 laps. So that was what, as Scott Dixon walks back to the pit garage area and he's out of that car. This was the reason that Kim raised that point earlier, and we touched on it, and then we kind of we drifted away and stopped looking at those facts. But at the moment, the last time that D'Amata, Brack, Canaan and so on all pitted was lap 10. So that means that they must pit again before lap 30. We've got 26 in the bag, and they're going to do 36 at a minimum declared race. Mark?
Yeah, I'm down here with Dario Franchitti's team manager, Kyle Moyer. Kyle, what's the situation here? We're just talking about this fuel strategy. Looks like Mike Andretti's going to get a big jump up when these other guys come in.
Yeah, well, I think what they're going to do is Michael just won this thing. I mean, they did the right strategy. We were talking about doing the same thing. I mean, they pulled a good move. I mean, they're going to call this thing on 36 laps. That means Michael's won, and everybody up front that did the proper thing if the track was to stay dry is now junk. It's a shame we've only got 6 laps of green in at this place. We've got 14 hours, but I'm not the guy that makes that call. So, you know, it's just an absolute shame for this place.
It is a great shame. Tell me, what's Dario been telling you on the headsets?
Well, I mean, it's soaking wet out there. There's a lot of standing water in the corners, and, you know, the car's hydroplaning everywhere. So, you know, we don't got a good handling car anyway. We haven't had much luck this week, and I think this is just more of it.
Thanks, Carl.
I know what Paul Tracy's been saying in the other car. What is going on, and what is